Welcome to episode 332 of Angela Watson's Truth for Teachers. I'm your host, Angela Watson, and I'm here to speak encouragement into the hearts of educators and get you informed and energized for the week ahead. Today, I'm talking about scheduling and time blocking for teachers so you can maximize your work hours and stop taking so much work home. Visit truthforteachers.com for an easy-to-read, easy-to-share version of this podcast episode. If, like most teachers, you have students in your class with ADHD, dyslexia, or other learning differences, there's a podcast I want to put on your radar. It's called Opportunity Gap, and it's hosted by Julian Saavedra, an assistant principal with over 15 years of experience in public schools. What I appreciate about this show is how it dives into real-world conversations that we don't always get in professional development. Like what federal special ed funding actually means for your classroom, or how to recognize signs of dyslexia, especially in students of color. Julian interviews educators, psychologists, and legal experts, but it's never dry or theoretical. It's always practical, heartfelt, and grounded in the realities of our work. So if you're looking to better serve your students with learning differences, just search for Opportunity Gap in your favorite podcast app. That's Opportunity Gap. If you don't want to spend the new school year overwhelmed by the nonstop demands of teaching, I have something that can help. I'm partnering with Rocket PD to offer a new live virtual cohort called Unlocking Teacher Productivity, which kicks off October 2nd. We'll meet Thursdays throughout the month of October 2025 for a total of 5 90-minute sessions. I'll walk you through step-by-step systems to help you prioritize what matters most, cut down on unnecessary work, and finally feel on top of your time. You'll get access to me, the recordings, a downloadable workbook, and a certificate of PD completion, along with a private group for support. I designed this experience to be practical and doable, no fluff, just real solutions for teachers. Go to rocketpd.com to learn more about my cohort and others happening this fall. That's rocketpd.com. Today's episode is going to speak to every teacher who's ever looked at their to-do list and thought, there is just no way that I can get all of this done. If your workload feels like a never-ending treadmill, if you find yourself working late into the evening only to feel like you barely made a dent in your day, this episode is for you. We're talking about time blocking and scheduling, not in a rigid, color-coded calendar kind of way that only works in theory. We're diving into what it actually looks like to allocate your time with intention in a real-life classroom with constant interruptions, shifting priorities, and everything that comes with being a teacher in this day and age. This episode pulls from one of my favorite modules inside the Unlocking Teacher Productivity cohort that I'm leading through Rocket PD this fall. It's based on the second module called Scheduling and Time Blocking, and I wanted to give you a sneak peek into what you would learn in that course today. You'll get some practical takeaways that you can start implementing right away, and if you want to go deeper, I'll tell you how to join the full experience in that professional development in October. So in both this podcast and also in that course, we're going to talk about how to allocate time for high, medium, and low priority tasks without guilt or overwhelm. We'll talk about why you need to set your work hours in advance and how to actually stick to them. We'll discuss a super simple way to estimate how long things will take so that you're not always behind, and what to do when your plans get derailed. Because let's face it, that is just part of the job. Let's start with one of the biggest mindset shifts around time. Not all tasks are created equal. So we need to allocate time for high, medium, and low priority tasks. Before we really get into time blocking or energy levels or how long things take, we have to start by examining what actually matters most. Because if you're trying to fit everything in without first deciding what's worth fitting in, you're going to burn yourself out fast. And this is where it helps to sort your tasks into high, medium, and low priority, and be honest about what belongs in each category. High priority tasks are essential. These are the things that directly impact student learning, help you meet deadlines, or just are foundational to keeping your classroom running smoothly. These things deserve your focus and your best energy. Medium priority tasks are useful, but not urgent. They're helpful to get done, but the world won't end if they happen tomorrow instead of today. Low priority tasks are just the nice to haves. Organizing your file cabinet, adding extra flair to a slideshow, sorting your construction paper by color. These things might feel satisfying, but they shouldn't be stealing time from what matters most. So when something pops into your mind and you're like, oh, I need to get that done, don't just write it on your to-do list, because then you'll have this endless long list of things that you'll never get through. Have a list with 3 columns: high priority, medium priority, low priority. Decide before you write it down, how important is this? Mark it in the right column, and then you'll be able to see at a glance which things you need to prioritize without worrying that all of those lower priority tasks are going to get forgotten. They are on the list. They will get done eventually. It's really easy in a busy school day to get pulled into whatever's right in front of you, or to do something that's just very quick, or that feels good to get done in the moment, especially if you're overwhelmed. But without that clear sense of priority, we end up spending precious energy on tasks that don't really move the needle. So I recommend, as you make your to-do list for the day or the week, to label the items with a high, medium, or low. Schedule in those high priority tasks first during your peak energy times or the longer blocks of time that you have to do more focused work, and fit in those medium and low priority items around them if you have time. As you start practicing this, you will begin noticing patterns. If something stays a low priority for 3 weeks in a row, it might not need to be done at all. You can give yourself permission to cross it off or defer it without guilt. And if everything on your list feels high priority, that's a signal to reassess, because not everything is truly urgent. If everything is urgent, then nothing is. Prioritization is how we reclaim control. Not by doing more, but by doing what matters on purpose. And when you build your schedule around your real priorities, everything else becomes more manageable. Time blocking works better. Energy alignment makes more sense. You're not just reacting and putting out fires all day long. You are leading your own time with clarity. So that's the first and maybe even the most important thing, is figuring out what is a high, what is a medium, and what is a low priority task. Now let's talk about aligning your tasks with your energy using the concepts of deep and shallow work. Not all tasks require the same kind of mental energy. Some things demand full concentration and uninterrupted thought. That's what I call deep work based on Cal Newport's research. Deep work is the kind of thing that really moves the needle. It might be creating a lesson from scratch or giving meaningful feedback on student writing. It could be analyzing assessment data or writing thoughtful emails to parents. These kind of tasks require clarity, focus, and the space to think deeply. Other tasks are what Cal Newport calls shallow work, and that's not necessarily a negative thing. These might be routine, repetitive tasks that don't require your full attention, but they still do need to get done. So things that qualify as shallow work are entering grades into your gradebook, tidying up your classroom, scheduling meetings, replying to simple messages. You can often do shallow work even if you're tired, distracted, or low on mental energy. So the shift to make here is that instead of just powering through your to-do list from top to bottom, align your tasks with your energy and your cognitive bandwidth throughout the day. This is something you've heard me talk about on the podcast before, as well as in my book, Fewer Things Better. And it's also a core concept in my Finding Flow Solutions curriculum that I created so that you can model and share this concept with students. In the focused attention unit of Finding Flow, I explain it this way. I can do deep work when I'm concentrating well, and I can do shallow work when I'm not. This is something that we can do with students and for ourselves. It's a really simple mindset shift that can completely change how your day feels. Instead of fighting to do deep work during times when your brain is foggy, you can intentionally plan it during your peak focus hours, maybe first thing in the morning or during a quiet prep period. And then when you hit that mid-afternoon slump or you're mentally tapped out after a tough meeting, you can do shallow tasks, things that don't require the same cognitive lift. So try that out. Maybe just look at one day on your to-do list and ask, what needs deep focus? And what can I do when I'm running on fumes? And then block your time off accordingly. Even if it's 20 minutes for deep work in the morning. This doesn't have to be, multiple hours of things. That's a thing about teaching. That's a thing about parenting, is that you often don't have long uninterrupted blocks. 20 minutes is enough to get into deep work. Maybe you have 15 minutes for shallow work before dismissal. When you start to think about your tasks in this way, you're building a system around how your brain actually works. You're not just trying to squeeze in everything wherever you can and feel like you should always be doing something more. The next piece of advice that I have is to set clear work hours in advance. So you can choose a target number of hours for the week and decide how much you're going to work, when you're going to work, and what you're going to do during those times. This is what I mean by setting clear work hours in advance. Instead of working until everything is done, you work until the pre-designated time is up. You look at your week ahead, your calendar, your appointments, your meetings, your family obligations, and then you intentionally choose which hours you will devote to schoolwork. Then you go one step further and you assign specific tasks to those time blocks. So let's say that you have set a target of 42 hours for the week. You have broken those hours up into a few early mornings before your contract begins, a couple of late afternoons, and let's say 1 2-hour block on Sunday evening. Instead of just showing up and trying to work through a list, map out what you're going to do. Monday morning before school, I'm going to finish my subplans. Tuesday afternoon, I'm going to stay late 1 hour and I'm going to grade all those math assessments. Thursday, instead of taking my lunch break, I'm going to respond to parent messages. And then Friday afternoon, right after dismissal, I'm going to prep my materials for next week. When you assign a task to a specific block of time, it helps you work with more clarity and more urgency. You're not just doing whatever feels most pressing or whatever is easiest to do in that moment. You've already decided what matters most, what is a priority, and when you're going to handle it. And this is also what prevents you from using up all your work hours before the week is even halfway over. Because what often happens is this. Teachers walk in on Monday morning with no plan except to get as much done as possible. But then a meeting runs long, and a student meltdown takes some time, and then the copier jams, and you know the drill. By Wednesday, all of your designated time blocks are gone, and half of your to-do list is still untouched. But when you've already spread your tasks across the week in advance, you're far less likely to overcommit or overestimate what you can realistically get done in a single day. And the best part is that you can adjust things anytime. If something is taking longer than expected or something new comes up, just shift it around. You're not falling behind, you're revising your plan. That's what intentional scheduling is all about, going back to those priorities. If a new priority crops up, it's fine to shift things around. That's what highly productive people do. The goal is not to stick to the plan. The goal is mindfulness and intentionality. You're protecting time for the things that matter and giving yourself permission to be done when the time is up, not when every single thing is finished. So that's how you start creating a sustainable work schedule. Choose your target number of hours for the week ahead, decide when you're going to work, and assign specific high priority tasks to those hours. And then you live the rest of your life around that. So work is sort of fitting into things instead of being the driver of everything, being the default activity. Well, I have a few minutes, I should probably be grading papers. This really helps you set that boundary a lot better. Let's talk now about something that can quietly sabotage even the most carefully laid plans, and that is underestimating how long things actually take and getting thrown off by constant interruptions. This is one of the top reasons why time blocking sometimes doesn't work for teachers. You sit down during your planning period thinking that you're going to knock out some grading, answer some emails, and prep some materials. And then 20 minutes later, you've answered one email and had 3 kids come in for makeup work, plus a teammate who needed to vent about a parent phone call. Sound familiar? It's very normal, and it's not a sign that you're doing anything wrong. It's just part of working in a school. So that means it's something you can plan for. It's not actually unexpected, right? The first step is getting more realistic about how long your tasks actually take. So I recommend start tracking it. How long do things actually take? When you begin a task, make a quick mental estimate. I think this will take about 15 minutes. And then time yourself. You can jot it down on your to-do list or use a timer app if you want to get fancy, but even just a quick sticky note is enough. Most teachers are shocked when they do this for the first time. Tasks that feel like they should take 10 minutes often take 30. So the problem isn't that you're not working fast enough. It's that you are underestimating how long it takes to do a job well. When you start collecting that data, even just casually, you're building a mental reference bank. You can begin to schedule based on what's real and not what's ideal. So try that out. Just jot a quick estimate in your planner, on your to-do list, wherever. I'm going to grade these writing samples. 25 minutes? ? Clean out inbox, 10 minutes? ? Plan science centers, 30 minutes? ? So write down your guess and then track the actual time. Was your guess close? Were you way off? What made the difference? Is that thing that came up that made it take longer this time likely to happen again? Think about this stuff. Just pay attention. And over time, you'll start to build up a more accurate internal sense of how long things really take in your specific teaching context. And that's a game changer, because when you know that grading those 30 quizzes typically takes you 45 minutes, not a half hour, you can plan your week in a way that actually fits your workload. You stop trying to cram 5 major tasks into a 25-minute prep period and feeling defeated when you only finish one. And here's something else that happens. You start getting faster at the things you do often. Just by timing it and bringing awareness to it, you create a sense of focus and urgency that helps you work more efficiently without rushing. You'll also notice which tasks are taking more time than they should. Maybe you spend 90 minutes every single week writing parent newsletters and you realize you could streamline that process. Maybe you're losing 20 minutes every day transitioning between subjects and you decide to build in tighter routines. So when things take longer than expected, ask yourself, do I need to finish this now? Can I put the second part of this task onto my to-do list for another time period? Can I break this down into smaller chunks? So instead of expecting myself to do it all at once, is this actually not just a single task? It's a project. It has like 3 or 4 steps. Can I schedule time for those 3 or 4 steps instead of trying to do everything? What can I bump or what can I move to later in the week to make time for this now? So if I know it really needs to get done, what's less important? What's the lower priority that I can move to later? So you're not failing at time blocking when a task goes over time. It's really just feedback, and it's valuable. It helps you plan better next time. You can't change what you don't measure. And when you know how long your work actually takes, you can make better choices. Now that leads us to my final tip here, which is to plan for the interruptions in your shifting priorities. Because even the best planned schedule can unravel in a heartbeat. There's suddenly an email that needs immediate attention. A teammate suddenly needs your help. That's not a failure of planning. That's just real life. So instead of resisting that reality, let's plan around it. One of the best things you can do is build in buffer time and create margin in your schedule on purpose. For me, that means leaving 15 to 30 minutes each day unassigned. I don't label it with a task, I just keep it open. That way, when the unexpected happens, and it always does, I have space to respond without throwing off the whole rest of my schedule. And if nothing comes up, that time becomes a gift. I can rest, I can reflect, I can catch up. I can just move more slowly instead of rushing on to the next thing. Creating margin isn't about wasting time, it's protecting time. It's what allows you to manage the unpredictability of teaching without constantly feeling frazzled. It also helps to get clear on when your day is most interruption prone. If you know dismissal is chaotic, or your hallway turns social after the bell, don't try to tackle deep, focused work then. Use that time for shallow tasks like organizing materials or prepping for the next day. Save your deep work for early mornings or quieter periods when there's not as many people around and when your mental energy supports it. And maybe most importantly, plan to make adjustments. Even with buffer time built in, some days are still going to go completely off script. That's exactly why we build flexibility into the system. Your target number of hours in your work schedule should be adjustable. The to-do list is a guide, it's not a contract. So take a few minutes every couple of days or maybe just once a week to reassess what's still truly urgent. What can wait? What can I cross off my list because it doesn't need to happen at all anymore? That's how you stay aligned with your values, not just your plans, by going back to assess your priorities repeatedly. This mindset of adjusting your plans can truly make the difference between burnout and finding a sustainable path to getting your work done effectively. So you don't have to think about it as falling behind or never being done. You are adapting. You're leading your own time with intention. Even when things don't go as planned, you still have that measure of control. So let's take a breath. Let's zoom out for a moment because we've covered a lot today. We talked about deep and shallow work time periods, setting clear boundaries around your time, assigning tasks to specific time blocks, estimating how long things actually take, building in margin, and giving yourself permission to revise your plans when life happens. This might feel like a lot, but really it all comes back to one idea. You deserve to have a work schedule that is sustainable over time. Not perfect, not hyper productivity, not getting through everything on your to-do list every single day. Just a sustainable rhythm to your week that makes space for both your responsibilities and your humanity. You're never going to be able to control every minute of your day. That's not the goal. The goal is to stop letting the work expand endlessly into every corner of your life and start being just a little more intentional with how you use the time and energy that you have. Once you start approaching your schedule this way, you begin to feel more grounded, even on the hard days. You start to trust yourself more. You get a clearer sense of what matters most and how to protect time for it. Your takeaway truth is this: you don't need to do more. You need to do the right things at the right times. You have limited energy and limited time, so use those things intentionally. Time blocking is about giving yourself structure and flexibility. It's about protecting your energy so you can show up fully where it matters most. If you want to go deeper into this work and you want support creating systems like this step by step, I would love to have you join me in the Unlocking Teacher Productivity cohort that I'm doing this fall with Rocket PD. It's a live guided experience with community, accountability, and coaching as you implement these professional development ideas in real time. If you prefer something more self-paced, you might check out the 40-Hour Teacher Workweek Full Year program. It walks you through some of these foundational mindsets and time-saving systems at your own pace with ongoing support and resources that you can revisit anytime. You'll find links to both of these programs in the show notes so that you can determine which one fits your needs the best. Or head over to rocketpd.com to learn more about the Unlocking Teacher Productivity course. You can do this. And remember, it's not going to be easy. It's going to be worth it.